and I'm very happy to welcome Ian Bradfield from the Welsh government. Ian, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So it's still dark here in Wales. So.
That's fantastic. Ian, you will tell us now why Wales reduced the speed limit and give us an insight in first experiences. And yeah, Ian, please share your screen and start your presentations. The next 10 minutes are yours.
Lovely. I hope everybody can see that. Speak up if you can't.
We can see it.
Thanks. Brilliant. Right. Okay. Hello, I'm Ian Bradfield. I'm the Principal Policy Lead for Road in Welsh Government, which basically means I head up roads policy and road safety for the organisation. One thing I am going to mention here today is the speeds that I give are going to be in miles per hour, not kilometres. So when I refer to 20 miles an hour, that's 30 kilometres, and when I refer to 30 miles an hour, that's 50 kilometres. So just to avoid any confusion before I start. Now, how did we start with all this? Well, it was a manifesto commitment to the Welsh Government to introduce 20 mile an hour on all residential roads in Wales. Now, to decide how this was to be done, the then Minister for Transport set up a little task force group to look at how to implement this. And it was a wide cross-section of representatives, some from the public sector, some from the private sector, and some from the voluntary sector. From this, their findings were put forward. They put forward 21 recommendations, all of which were accepted by the Welsh Government. Now, the main recommendation by the group was to accelerate the implementation of 20 mile an hour across Wales by introducing a default national speed limit on restricted roads. Now, I have to explain to you what a restricted road is, because I don't think every country has this. Now, in Wales, or in fact in the UK, a restricted road is one with a system of street lighting. In fact, where street lights are more than 200 metres apart, if they're not more than 200 metres apart, by default, the speed limit was 30 mile an hour. But Welsh Government introduced legislation to change that and bring the speed limit down to 20 mile an hour wherever the speed limits. So basically, by introducing one small piece of legislation, the whole country overnight changed to 20 mile an hour. Now, as you can see here from this slide, the difference it made was colossal. You've gone from 37% of roads suddenly being 20 mile an hour, and you only had 2.5% of roads the day before. So it really is an absolute massive change overnight. Now, why change the speed limit? Well, as I say, in Wales in 2021, over half the collisions occurred on 30 mile an hour roads, and a lot of those involved pedestrians and children. And you know, there were various reports saying that, you know, if we introduce this 20 mile an hour, there'd be 40% fewer collisions, 6 out of 10 lives would be saved, and you know, between 1,200 and 2,000 people would avoid injury. So this all equated to around about a £92 million a year casualty saving. Also in a survey, there was like sort of 1,000 adults were surveyed, and 1 in 3 said that if the speed limit was reduced to 20 mile an hour, it would increase their likelihood of walking or cycling more often. This sort of meets the objectives of our transport strategy, sort of to get more sort of walking and cycling and sort of get sort of more healthier, safer communities. Now, this shows here that sort of the preparations that we did. What we did was a few years before, in fact, in 2021, 2022, we set up 8 large settlements. They could be huge areas of bigger cities or actual complete settlements, and immerse them in 20 mile an hour. And the idea of this was to develop a sort of monitoring strategy that could then be used for the wider rollout, which we've now introduced, to say, on the 17th of September last year. Now, these are the, we've called them key performance indicators. So these are the things that we are going to measure or have started to measure. So we've got percentage of compliance with 20 mile an hour speed limit. We found that this was sort of 64% of people were traveling at or below 24 mile an hour once it was introduced, 45% pre-implementation. Now, the 85th percentile is one we're very keen to measure, because these are the fast drivers. These are the drivers who are really going well over the speed limit. And to bring this down, I think, is almost more significant than bringing the average down, the mean down. Vehicle journey times will be measured. Now, bus services, again, they will be measured. That's been mixed, but it's a bit too soon to conclude. But some bus companies have had to change their routes and alter perhaps their schedules. Again, the change, as I mentioned before, in what we call active travel, walking and cycling, to see how that would improve, and also the behaviour between sort of pedestrians and motorists and drivers, to see that there was more sort of likelihood that drivers would yield to give way to pedestrians to actually cross the road. And finally, we looked at air quality, and basically so far we've found out there's really little difference in air quality. But then again, you wouldn't expect a 10 mile an hour difference in speed to make a massive difference. It's more the background features that influence air quality far more than just a 10 mile an hour change in traffic speed. We provided 29 million to all the local authorities, the highway authorities, to make the change. Because it was all overnight, what we used were vinyl overlays on the actual signs. So they changed the signs months before, but they all had sort of stickers on the front of them that they could peel off within a day. In fact, it took a bit more than that, but within a week, the whole country had changed all its signs. We had to produce a sort of guidance for highway authorities, local authorities, if they wanted roads to remain 30 mile an hour. It's within their gift as the authority to keep 30 mile an hour or make 30 mile an hour roads if they felt 20 mile an hour wasn't appropriate on particular streets. Now, we had a big communications campaign. As I say, it was a national campaign, mainly to raise awareness, as I say, the safety benefits, what we would do with enforcement, the wider community gains. And again, these were, as I say, TV ads, radio ads, social media, all those sort of things. And it was all sort of featured around the change, because we didn't have a massive budget. So we really ramped it up just before and just after the change. Now, we also decided that we needed some sort of extra enforcement, not just the usual cameras that would be out there. So we've actually mounted an operation, or funded an operation with the police, or our speed camera or safety camera partnership, where it's a sort of engagement event. So the police are out there, they will stop motorists who are marginally over the speed limit and offer them a presentation there and then at the roadside by the fire and rescue service, because we felt people were more, they feel more sort of to take things from the fire service than they would from the police. So they have this is only 10 minutes and they can go on their way. Those people, of course, who had a blatant disregard for the speed limit would get the fines and the points that they usually get. Now, we've actually, starting from this Monday, we've rolled this operation out all across Wales. So 3 teams covering the whole country. Now, it wasn't all plain sailing. There was vociferous opposition to the change, as you can see from the slide here. There was an awful lot of vandalism. We also had, well, we've got, and we haven't debated it yet, our Senedd, which is our Parliament. The public can put a petition in for them to debate it. As you can see from this slide, this is the largest petition that they've ever received against the change. So that runs until March. So it could get interesting when it gets debated again. Although I don't think there's any political will to reverse anything. So early sort of indications. Well, to be honest with you, we did an awful lot, as I say, of communications and media. But to be honest with you, the actual, it took off so much in the media and so much sort of people saying that they thought it was a bad idea. It became everybody became very, very well aware of it. Compliance, as I said, it is not so bad as you think. 62%, as I said, traveling below 24 mile an hour compared to 45% before. I said the 85th percentile has dropped. but we won't really know if there's any change in collisions. We're going to monitor for 5 years for that. It's a long-term thing, because collisions are a sort of random event often. So you really do need many years of data to make a sort of actual statement that, you know, 20 mile an hour lower speed limit has really impacted on the number of casualties. There's also, as I said, issues with our bus industry. They're claiming that it's causing disruption, or some of the operators, to the timetables, as I said. Anecdotal reports that some small business are suffering, but there's not much to substantiate that. But we did find that a lot of motorists had poor knowledge of what we call the highway code. That's the sort of rules of the road. Before we even made the change, a lot of them didn't realise what I explained right at the beginning about streetlights, setting a default speed limit. It was quite frightening that a lot of motorists didn't actually know that, even though when they fundamentally learn to drive in the UK, that's part of the test. And we've also had the police have been reluctant to enforce, because, as I mentioned, there's been an awful lot of vandalism. So if the signs aren't right, technically people could maybe make an appeal and get off from the fine or the points that they may receive. So, as I say, we had an awful lot of opposition. It's become very party political because, as you know, we've got an election here in the UK, and it's even gone into England, and the Prime Minister's got involved. It's very much misinformation out there. So it's been sadly used politically to say that this is to restrain people, and you know it's a bad thing because it's affecting the economy. It's buses, as I said, aren't running. So all the negative points are being used by the main opposition in our parliament. And myself and my team, we've been absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of correspondence and all the other requests for information that we've had, and all the papers we've had to prepare, because it so often comes up in our Senate and our Parliament for debate and questions. So there's been an awful lot of work for that. I won't run through the politics, as I say. That's it from me. I hope that was useful. Thank you.
Ian, thank you very much for the concise overview. There are some questions I want to ask you. I may ask you. One is, how big of a problem was the public transport in the implementation? Did the public transport companies support the measure?
Yes and no. They accepted it, and some public transport companies actually, we told them it was coming and adjusted before the change, so they changed all the timetables and accepted it. Other ones in the UK or in Wales, we've given them a grant because of COVID to keep the services running. But the actual fact is, since COVID, the patronage on buses has gone down, and it just has not come back. And unfortunately, certain companies have used 20 mile an hour as a bit of a scapegoat to try and say, well, 20 mile an hour is causing us all these problems. We need more subsidies. We need more money. It has caused some issues, but I think they're well over exaggerated by many of the bus companies.
And second question, travel time, also for the cars, is one of the arguments of the opponents against lowering the speed limits. What experiences do you made in this?
I mean, yes. I mean, when the roads are quiet, it is going to affect your travel time. There's no two ways about that. It is going to slow you down. But let's be honest with you, most urban areas where this is, it's traffic signals, junctions, delays with traffic anyway that cause the delays. I mean, all that's happening is that you just don't queue quite so long, perhaps at the signal. What we find is people saying, "Oh, there's a lot more congestion now because of 20 mile an hour." The reason is that people get impatient and catch up with the cars that are observing the speed limit and cause a queue. But generally, it is actually, as I said, signals and junctions, and those are the things that cause. And on reflection, when people look back in busy urban areas, were they actually achieving 30 mile an hour, 50 kilometers beforehand? Probably not, to be honest with you, if they're honest.
Thank you very much, Ian.